Hey everyone, my name is Morgan and welcome to Quality Time Crafts. Today we will be making a craft for this spring season I'm sure you all will love. I have made this craft before where it displays all 4 seasons, and it looks like this. But for today's video, we will be focusing on the spring portion. However, I do plan to show how I did the other seasons in future videos. So come on, let's get started. So for this craft, you will need the following supplies: multiple shades of pink and blue paint, red, white, green, and brown paint, large and small brushes, thick paper or a small canvas, a trash bag, a paper plate, Q-tips, and rubber bands. Okay, so I have everything laid out to start with. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on the background first. So what I have here is I have my piece of paper. So I'm using a watercolor paper. It's really thick. And then what we're gonna do is the sky will be a gradient. So I've chosen a teal blue color, and then a light blue color, and then white. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna start at the top with your darkest color and work your way down to your lightest color. So let's get started. I'm gonna prep my paint real quick and then we'll get going. Okay, so I have my paint prepped on my plate, and you'll notice as I paint this, I'm also gonna just be pouring paint individually on top of my sheet. Because this paint, it dries really quickly, so to get the gradient effect that you want, you have to work really fast. So what I'm gonna do again is I'm gonna start with the darker color, work to the lighter color. So here we go. Okay, so I've taken it. It doesn't have to be neat and pretty because again, we're going to be putting our tree on top of this background. So you just really want to give the idea of the gradient. And so that way it kind of looks more like the sky, spring sky. So I'm going to take this, let it dry, and then we'll come back and we will start on our grass. Okay, so now I have my sheet dried. This is kind of what it turned out to be. So you'll see it went from dark to light. So this lighter portion down here is where we're gonna add our grass. So you're gonna take green paint, and I'm going to put it in my plate real quick. Okay, so just a little green paint, and then you're gonna take smaller paint brushes, and you're going to paint along the bottom. You're gonna start out, kind of pick out where you want your line to be. I'm probably gonna make mine go up to like right here. Okay, so you're gonna start like that. So I'm gonna paint across like this, and then I'll show you how to do the grass. Okay, so you'll notice what I did was I took the grass and did green, and then I kind of just did a little bit of slope just to make it a little more realistic instead of it just being a flat plane. So now I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to just make little blades of grass. So I'm going to finish this up and then we'll move on to the tree. Okay, so I added my grass. I did, taller and shorter sections. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to move to the tree trunk. So what you'll do is you'll take brown paint. You can do any shade. I kind of chosen just like a medium brown. It says it's called nutmeg. So what we'll do is set my paintbrush to the side. We'll add our brown paint. And then what I've chosen for paintbrushes, so I have 3 different sizes. I like for this type to be more of like a pointy brush, just so that I can get lines more easier. And then I've chosen one paintbrush that's really small, just so I can get the little branches on there if I want to. And this is where it's fun and you can get creative, because you can do any tree shape that you want. So you don't have to just stick to the one that I draw today. I will be starting my tree trunk now. And so I'm gonna start, and then I'll stop kind of halfway along the way and kind of talk about the branches, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I have the base of my tree done, and I'll fix the bottom half later on. But now what I want you to notice is, so I have the tree trunk, and so now I'm gonna start the branches off. So I usually start off and kind of make it thinner towards the top. You taper it up, and then you're just gonna branch off your main branches. So then off these main branches, you'll just have your little smaller ones that come off. So I'm gonna finish mine up, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so I finished my tree. Turned out like this. So I just did larger and small branches and kind of just made it fan out across the page and tried to take up this more quadrant of the sheet right here. So that way when we put our petals on here, it looks like a full tree. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then we will move on and do the petal portion of the project. Okay, so my tree is dry, so now we're gonna move on to the petals like I mentioned before. So what you will need is, you're gonna need some Q-tips. I'm using 3 because I have found that when I've done this, that 3 is usually the right amount. You can do more if you want to. Like I mentioned, I'm going to use 3. So basically what you'll do is you'll bunch up your Q-tips together, kind of makes a triangle, and then you will take a small rubber band and you will wrap them up like so. Okay, you're going to want to push them down like this and make sure that they're flush and even. And now here comes the fun part. So this is where you get creative, and it's super cool to do Q-tip crafts. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna put my paint on my plate again, and the colors I'll be using are a red, I'm gonna be using a pink, and then I'm gonna bring out the white again. And just like we did the sky, we did a gradient of dark to light. We're gonna do the same concept with the petals and leaves. So basically, you're gonna start with red, pink, white. And adding the lighter colors on top of the red make your tree really pop and looks more realistic, especially adding the white at the end. So let me add that paint on the sheet and we'll get started. Okay, so I have my paint colors laid out on my paper plate, and now I'm gonna take my Q-tip, going to dip it in the red paint, and sometimes I'll dab it on my plate just to see what the pattern's gonna look like. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I always want to kind of do at least a dab first when I'm doing it, just so that it's not a big glob of paint right on my sheet. So I'm going to start over here. You just start dabbing away. just like that. So I'm going to finish up the red real quick, and then we will move on to the pink. Okay, so I have the red portion done, and so we're starting to get a tree shape now, as you can see. So I've kind of followed along the top of the branches that I drew, and it doesn't really matter what your branches look like underneath, because at the end you won't really see them very much. It's just to help kind of give you the shape of the tree that you are going for. So now we're going to move on to the pink paint. So you don't need to change your Q-tip. You can use the same side. Dip it in, kind of see what the color is going to look like. So you're gonna notice that, so I'm going right on top of some of the red that I've done. So the pink just helps accent and highlight the red. So you're gonna do this across the whole tree. So I'm gonna finish this portion real quick, and then we will move on to the white. Okay, so now I've added the pink portion on top of the red, and then I went back on some of the red and just added a little bit more where I needed that color again. So now I'm gonna take the white, and if you want to, you can use the other side of your Q-tips now. I usually like to use it on the last highlight color. Okay, so we're dipping it. Now we're going to go in with the white. Okay, so you see, do the same thing as I did before with the other colors. So I'm gonna finish up the white, and then we will move on to the next step. Okay, so I've added the white, and now what I'm gonna do is go back with all the colors and kind of just do a filler and make sure that I'm happy with the final product. Okay, so I finished up my tree with all the different colors, with the gradient of red, pink, and white. So now what I'm gonna do is take my small paintbrush that I used earlier, and I'm gonna add some petals on the ground. Okay, so I've added some petals at the bottom that make it look like it's falling from the tree. So now what we're gonna do is, one of the last steps is you can add a swing to your tree, or a fence to the grass, or a bench, whatever that you guys want to. This is another area that you guys can get creative. So I'm gonna be adding a swing to my tree. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the brown that I used earlier in my small paintbrush again, and add the swing. Okay, so I finished up my swing. So this is what the final outcome looks like. Well, that's all the crafting fun we have today, you guys. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to like and subscribe below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.